وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Inshallah, we'll continue with our last week's discussion. I will do a recap of last week's discussion on the idea of nighttime. And because the last week's discussion was concerned with the first 9 ayat, I'm going to recite those 9 ayat again from Surah al-Muzzammil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qumil layla illa qalila, nisfahu wa minqus minhu qalila, aw zid alayhi wa rattilil Qur'ana tartila. إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا إن ناشئة الليل هي أشد وطئا وأقوم قيلا إن لك في النهار سبحا طويلا واذكر اسم ربك وتبتل إليه تبتيلا رب المشرق والمغرب لا إله إلا هو فاتخذه وكيلا صدق الله العلي العظيم. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last session, we spoke about this idea of Qiyamul Layl. We said the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ali is addressed by saying, Ya ayyuhal Muzzammil, meaning one who is covered in a garment. Stand up in the night time, except for a short period, or half of it, or less than half of it, or more than half of it. And we said this statement, this sentence structure indicates a concept called takhir, meaning the Prophet is being given ikhtiyar, meaning you can do less, you can basically do any portion of the night, but you should and you must do qiyamul layl. Okay, inshallah, when we finish this entire surah, when I will wrap this surah up, I will talk about that this surah is actually giving a spiritual program to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam before he begins to do his tabligh and his physical propagation. This is a preliminary, and I spoke about that as well briefly last time. I said, look, in Surah al-Muddathir, you will see the actual physical propagation will happening. The Prophet will be asked to go warn his family or close relatives. So that is now an actual propagation. But before he can even do that, Allah is saying, no, first you go and get your spiritual strength in the night time, because the day you're really busy, right? Inna laka fin nahari sabhan tawila. You're really occupied and busy with day-to-day affairs during the daytime. In the nighttime, use the opportunity to basically recharge and gain that strength. And then inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila, because we are about to reveal to you a very, very heavy statement, heavy burden. Inshallah, I'll mention that as well. Last week, I wanted to just recap that discussion about nighttime. I wasn't able to get to it. Like the point I was trying to make at the end of the day is that, look, this is before the invention of the lights, okay, the street lights or whatever. And I want you guys to notice, okay, so in logic, right, we learned that you have concepts. Every human deals with concepts, okay? So when I'm seeing all you people over here and I'm seeing, like, the color red, a hat, a mask, there's all these concepts in my head, and I'm quickly like applying them on different masks. So even if someone has a blue mask or a black mask or a gray mask, I'm still applying the concept of mask very quickly, even though the masks are actually different. Okay. Likewise, what I'm trying to say here is that you have a concept of night in the pre-modern world. People understand what layl is, and I quoted that fatwa from Ayatollah Sistani. He's saying layl is right after basically maghrib. This means that in the pre-modern world, before the invention of the light, night would be anything from sunset until the Fajr time. So 7 p.m., when people observed 7 p.m., for example, that's an instance of night. So Qiyamul Layl can actually begin from right here. And I was trying to show that, if we go by this model, we actually have a lot of time to engage in Qiyamul Layl. We have a good 9 hours. And from those 9 hours, even if you spend 1 hour, like for example, you come back from work after Isha, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., or even less, some at the last ayah of this surah will say, look, if you cannot even do that, just recite a little bit of Quran, even that will be enough. Like to that extent, Allah will give us a discount. What happens with the invention of the light is that the perceptions of nighttime begins to actually shift. Not necessarily like become short, like it does become short by a few hours. But it's not only that, it actually shifts where now you have to be up from, let's say, 7, 8 a.m. Okay, so before it was 5 a.m., but you would take a nap in the middle and then you would be able to stay up during the night as well. But now it's 8 a.m. and you're going till 5 p.m. Okay, and that's your work day. But your day is not ending because now you have the lights on. So the perception of day is like, even though outside it's dark, but you're not perceiving it to be night, which is the end of the day. You're not perceiving it. The end of the day is 11 p.m. You know, we say to our kids, okay, lights out 8 p.m. Well, I don't know what time you guys sleep, but 9, 10 p.m., let's say, lights out, meaning now it's nighttime, now it's time to sleep. So what you've essentially done is that you've shifted the night so late and you've made your day so long. And Allah, as He said in the Quran, as we showed in the last, I keep saying episode because I record these Mizan Institute lessons and I keep saying episode. Last lesson, we showed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done ja'al. He has created the night for rest. So when we delay this, we're over-exhausting ourselves. And we're shifting the night so late that we're not gonna have the energy to do any qiyamul layl. And we're thinking that qiyamul layl now has to begin from here to here. I'll give you an example of how this can have a negative implication on some of the kids, for example, some of the youth, right? For example, Laylatul Qadr, Ramadan. Okay, Ramadan, Laylatul Qadr, according to this model, when all those a'mal are written in our ahadith corpus, do a'mal, we have tons. When do you think this is happening? In the narrations, when the Prophet is saying or the Imams are saying, when do you think that a'mal, when do you think those a'mal are happening? They're not necessarily happening like this. They're happening in this world. So people can begin a'mal right when the night sets after Isha. So now some of the youth, let's say, let's say they don't have the energy, they don't have the strength to be awake because you have such a long day. If a youth or anybody, not even have to be a youth, if they go and do a'mal after 8 p.m., the a'mal of Laylatul Qadr, if I do a'mal of Laylatul Qadr at 8 p.m., my mom will probably, youth will come out and say, hey, a'mal nahi ki hai. Because their thing is like, no, you have to stay up in the night. And the night hasn't begun until at 12 o'clock. And by then, because of the workload that we have gone through, and I'm saying that we are unnecessarily burdening ourselves. Now, I'm not saying, please don't do the amal of the night. Like, we have those as well, like staying up the night, going till sahar. We have that. But I'm saying, look, let's try and accommodate everyone and stop trying to make people feel guilty if somebody does decide to do amal at 10 p.m., 9 p.m. That's night. That's qiyamul layl. They're doing it. Don't think they haven't benefited from the amal of Laylatul Qadr. One thing I want to say here, and I want you to just write it down, and maybe inshallah some other time we can have that discussion, is why did this perception change? I mean, you know why it changed. I talked about it. But I want you to link this change of perception to the invention of technology. Technological changes impact our perceptions of things, and more significantly, they can also impact our moral perceptions. Okay, this is extremely, extremely important. Technological changes can even impact our moral perceptions. What is good, what is bad, okay? And hence why I alluded to it last time. There's a discussion, is technology inherently evil or not? Or is it, does it have to do with who's inventing the technology? All that discussion, but there is a very, very close link to this discussion, okay? I can give some examples, but I don't want to give it because since I'm not going to expand on it right now, I don't want to give an example and you guys may get confused. But look, this perception is changing, and also the morality that is associated with it. Meaning, if somebody does a'mal at 7 p.m., you're going to feel that they haven't done anything, and you're going to make them feel guilty. This is a moral perception. You feel they haven't done, the right thing. They've done a bad thing. This moral perception has also changed because of the invention of technology. This is something I want you to keep in mind. Okay, so this is the recap I wanted to do from last week, and to show that the Quran is saying something else. The Quran is saying the nighttime has been created, and I quoted so many different ayat, but technological changes have led to this. Okay, so what do? Can we fight technology? Can we say, okay, you know what? Light bulbs are created now, then we need to destroy all the light bulbs, which is what was happening in Europe. These university gangs were going and smashing the lights or whatever. No, that's not what we are saying. The actual solution to this would require a lot of intellectuals to come and basically contemplate over it. So I'm not here to give a solution necessarily, but I will talk about something else over here, which is the idea of having discipline and order in your life. That is something I will definitely mention right now. There's a very interesting narration, not a narration like a wasiyah, like a will Imam Ali alayhi salam writes to his children in Nahj al-Balagha is basically letter 47. In letter 47, he says, Usikuma, so two of his sons. Okay, we don't know if it's Imam Hassan Hussein or some say it's Muhammad bin Hanafiya and Imam Hassan. There's difference. It's irrelevant. And he says, oh, I'm giving wasiyah to two of you and all of my children and all of my family and anyone to whom this letter reaches. Okay, what are you doing? Wasiyah to? What are you advising us to? Imam Ali says, bitaqwa Allah, taqwa of Allah. And the second thing right after that is وَنَظْمِ أَمْرِكُمْ. You must have nazm in your day-to-day affairs. You must have order. Keep your affairs in order. Okay? This is very interesting, meaning taqwa is being mentioned, and right after that is as if like the means by which you can attain and keep taqwa in place is going to be by making sure your life is in order. If your life is not in order, you're going to probably struggle to have taqwa in Allah. This word nazm, okay, nazm, even the poetry is sometimes called, not sometimes, it is called nazm, right? Nazm means like something is in order. In Arabic, the word nazm, nadlamto, meaning, if you have a tasbih, this is literally the example they give. The tasbih, basically you've done nazm, and you've done nazm of it. Meaning what? You've put the beads in order, okay? You've put the beads in order, and once you put the beads in order, what happens to you is that when you are counting, even without looking at the tasbih, when you count one, there's a second one coming right after that. There's a third one coming right after that. That actually is what means by nazm, meaning you are not in the blind. You know exactly what is planned, what is coming next. You are prepared for it. That actually what means by nazm. Over here, I want to quote a narration from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says that an individual whose 2 days are equal, okay, meaning that day 1 and day 2, nothing has changed in this person's life. No improvement has happened in this person's life. Why? Because they don't have any order, no plan, no goal, no purpose. They have cheated themselves. They have cheated themselves. A person who does not see improvement in themselves during the course of the day, they are at loss. Okay, they're lost, meaning because if you are supposed to improve and you have not improved, then you have not increased, you have not gained anything. You have not profited from this day. And someone who is at loss, then death is better for them than life, right? Because every day if you're not improving, you're in like a deficit. You're going downhill. Imam Sadiq is saying, look, even death is better for this person at this point because they're not moving anywhere. At least if they die right now, whatever good things they've done, Allah will, reward them for that. But the longer they keep going without any order, it's just constant negative, going towards the negative. So, these narrations are there. A lot of focus on the idea of managing time, managing your life. Your life is extremely limited. There are a couple of qualities about, with life. It's limited. You are not sure about its long-term future in the sense that, you plan for it, but there could be things that, don't go your way. It's unpredictable. You can't pause it. You can't pause it. You cannot repeat life. Okay, it's not like a game where there used to be a game back in the late 90s on PlayStation 1 called Pepsi Man. I don't know if anyone remembers, right? Pepsi Man would run, and then there would be this check post will be a Pepsi can. So you will get that Pepsi thing, and then every time you die, you repeat from there. Okay, so the life would repeat for Pepsi Man, but that's not the case for us. Okay, so we're not Pepsi Man, so we'll keep going. So if you fall, you gotta get up from right there and move on. You cannot restart life. You can't replace it with anybody else's life. You can't buy and sell your life. Okay, so these are some of the qualities that we need to understand, and we see ourselves understanding these qualities when, for example, either we ourselves are in a situation where, let's say, doctor tells us we have very limited time to live, or even one of our loved ones, for example, the way our life changes at that point. Why is our life changing? Why do we become so serious at that time? Because all of these qualities about life quickly become, we become conscious of them. Otherwise, when we're occupied with the dunya, we forget these, discussions. I wanted to do another discussion over here about the divisions of a day. Many of you may have heard the narrations that say that from multiple imams, alayhimus salam, where it says that, divide the day into 3. Right? Some of you have heard one for your livelihood, one for your ibadah, one for leisure. and some of them say, divide it into 4. I don't want to. I have it here. I was gonna go through it, but I have another discussion which is pretty long that I've prepared. What I'll do is I'll refer you guys to an article on my blog, Iqra Online. It is called, Divisions of a Day, I think. IqraOnline.net. If you go Divisions of a Day, the entire narration is there. It's a reconstructed narration, which really, I even made like a chart on like Paint to like explain, what's going on in the narration. Look at that and see how you could sort of fit that teachings of the Imam in this. Because you got to remember, even when the Imam is quoting that narration and saying that narration, when our scholars quote it from the mimbar, we're understanding as if Imam Kazim is talking about it in this world. He's not. He's talking about it in that world. So look, you have to put in some effort to try and figure out how that relates to us. There is some effort required from your end. Okay, so I'm not going to do that discussion here because I need to move on. So what we will do is, so in this, so this was, as I said, a recap from last time. Over here, another ayah number 5 says, "Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila." Okay, that we, you do qiyamul layl. Okay, why do you have to do qiyamul layl? We are going to be sending you, or sending forth to you, qawlan thaqila. A qawl is statement. Okay, a very heavy one. Okay, a very heavy one. Over here is a very interesting discussion that, what do you mean qawlan thaqila? Like words like thaqil, hadithu thaqalain, 2 weighty things. Okay, something that is heavy. Heavy is usually something which is like material, has a jism, right? So like a book is heavy, or a phone is heavy, whatever, like something that has a 3D, shape. That is what is heavy. But qawl is just words, like it's just things that are coming in my mind. How is that heavy? This is also one of those phrases, figurative phrases, which is trying to say, like when you go to a lesson, I don't know if we didn't used to say it here in universities, but in Hausa it's pretty common. Like, today's lesson was really heavy, really intense. I never said that in university, to be honest, but anyways, it was not that intense in hindsight. But, maybe some of you students who study a bit more, something more serious than, marketing, maybe you feel that way, like today's lesson was really heavy. Why are you saying it's heavy? Meaning it took a toll on my mind, actually. Took a toll on my mind. So that is one possibility what this means, that inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila, that the contents of what I'm about to reveal to you, meaning the entire Quran, are going to take a huge toll on you. Okay? Why? Because you're going to have to be propagating this. And the people are not going to be ready for it. And basically Allah is saying, look, you're like, don't expect this to not have a reaction. This is definitely going to have a reaction. This is one interpretation. The other interpretation of this concerns the discussion on the reality of revelation, which is, if you remember in the first lesson, I said one of the first discussions that is done in the Ulum al-Quran is reality of revelation. What on earth is revelation itself? Okay, like the haqiqat of the wahi. Jibreel is coming. Okay, what is the Prophet hearing something? Like physically he's hearing something, or is he experiencing something? Is his soul experiencing something? This is the whole discussion. Some scholars who believe that it is the Prophet's soul connecting with the revelation, they have said this is what this means. Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila, meaning the nature itself of revelation is extremely, extremely intense. And obviously they have narrations that show that the Prophet, when he would get revelation, he would get stressed, like he would sweat. The animal he would be sitting on would sort of bend. I alluded to that as well, last session. So I didn't want to open this too much, but I want to share these 2 opinions over here that the Mufassirin have. One is that the content of what is about to be revealed is going to be intense, and you're going to be promoting this and propagating this. And the second is that it could be talking about the nature itself of revelation. Nature of revelation, okay? So these are 2 opinions over here. We're going to move on to the ayah 10 to 16 now. Okay, and I will recite them, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَهْجُرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا وَذَرْنِي وَالْمُكَذِّبِينَ أُولِي النَّعْمَةِ وَمَهِّلْهُمْ قَلِيلًا إِنَّا لَدَيْنَا أَنْكَالًا وَجَحِيمًا وَطَعَامًا ذَا غُصَّةٍ وَعَذَابًا أَلِيمًا يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الْأَرْضُ وَالْجِبَالُ وَكَانَتِ الْجِبَالُ كَثِيبًا مَهِيلًا إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ رَسُولًا شَاهِدًا عَلَيْكُمْ كَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ رَسُولًا فَعَصَى فِرْعَوْنُ الرَّسُولَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُ أَخْذًا وَبِيلًا. This is saying Ayah 10. Be patient, O Prophet, with what they say, and depart from them in a nice way. Hajran jamila. Okay, hajr, leave them, but leave them in a nice way. Don't, jamil means beautiful. So even in your, bara'a, tabarra, we said. Tabarra is not the correct word, by the way. Tawalla and tabarra is not correct. It's a mispronunciation. Tawalli and tabarri, that's the correct word, okay? So even in their bara'a and tabarri, this, Allah is saying, do jamil. Make sure it's beautiful. Don't do it in a way that is vulgar and they say, what kind of a prophet is this? No, do it very nicely. And leave to me the deniers. Those who are going to be denying you, leave them to me. And the people of luxury, leave them to me. And bear with them for a little while. Have a little bit of patience and وَمَحِّلْهُمْ قَلِيلًا. Give them a little bit of time, I will take care of them. For certainly we have shackles, for we certainly have shackles made up of fire, okay? And choking food and a painful punishment ready for them. So this is now description of hell. On the day, the earth and the mountains will shake violently, similar to إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. Same references. The earth and mountains will shake violently, and the mountains will be reduced to dunes of shifting sand. They will get destroyed. And indeed, we have sent to you, meaning we have sent to you, O people of Makkah, O non-Muslims, we have sent to you a messenger as a shahid, okay, as a shahid over you. I did not translate shahid for a reason. As a shahid over you, just as we sent a messenger to Fir'aun. Rasul is a messenger. But Fir'aun disobeyed the messenger and we seized him very sternly. Okay, seized him, just similar to seizing the nasi'a. Remember that discussion? Grabbing the forelock. So this is a concept, like we seize him with a stern grip. Okay. I can talk about the patience and the description of the hellfire, but as I said, the patience discussion will come at the end of the surah. When it's wrapped up, I will talk about what this surah is saying. Over here, I want to talk about ayah 15. This is the first ayah in the Quran, in order of revelation that we're going through, that describes this individual as a Rasul. And the second description that is being mentioned is not Nadhir or Bashir or anything like that. It is Shahid. Shahid usually means witness. Shahid means witness. We have sent you as a messenger, or we have sent you as a witness over these people, just as we sent basically Prophet Musa alayhi salam to Fir'aun, and Fir'aun disobeyed. I will have two discussions. One of them is going to be very long, and the second one will just be also the fact that this is also now the first surah where another prophet is being mentioned, even though not by name, but Fir'aun is being mentioned and Musa alayhi salam is being mentioned. What is the relationship of Musa for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What's the relationship here? Why not Nuh? Why not any other prophet? Why not Isa or something? Musa is being mentioned. So one thing we understand is the people of Makkah knew the story of Musa and Fir'aun. That's definitely shown from here. We're going to talk about the word shahid. Okay, we're going to talk about the word shahid. What does it mean for the prophet to be a witness over people? I apologize, this is going to get a little bit advanced and intense, but it's okay because I have different types of audiences, so I have gone a little bit low, but I need to go a little bit high as well for a certain type of audience. But please listen to it, inshallah. It's not that it will not benefit, it will be an interesting discussion. Remember, I said I will be using the tafsir as a launching pad, okay? As a launching pad for all sorts of discussions. For example, it could be discussions in fiqh, in aqidah, in law, in history, and whatever that comes to my mind. This one I'm going to have, because shahid, shaheed, shahadah, shahidun, ashhad, these are all words that come in the Quran. And when we say shaheed, usually we mean, what do we mean? Martyr. The Quran uses the word shaheed as well. Allah is shaheed. Even the Rasul is shaheed. Does that mean he is killed? Allah is killed? Doesn't mean that. We're going to do a discussion on what does the word shahid and shaheed mean in the Quran. Okay, we're going to talk about this. You have the word shahid, shaheed, shuhada, shahidun, and its derivatives like verb tenses used 160 times in the Quran. 160 times in the Quran. The linguistic meaning of shahida, the verb tense of it, the 3-letter root word, shahada, means presence. Just indicates this idea of being present, hudur. Okay, as opposed to ghiyab, like ghaib. Ghiyab means like not present. Okay, hazir and like ghaib. Are you absent or present? Present. Okay, and this presence is not just presence, but rather it indicates knowledge. This presence indicates knowledge. Okay, and hence you will see now some examples. Surah An-Naml, Surah 27, verse 32. أفتوني في أمري ما كنت قاطعة أمرا حتى تشهدون. She said, O chiefs, give me your opinion in this matter of mine. I never take a decision on any matter except in your presence. Except in your presence. Okay? Surah Naml, ayah 49. قالوا تقاسموا بالله لنبيتنه These are ta'keeds. La is a ta'keed, the noon at the end is a ta'keed, emphasis. وَأَهْلَهُ ثُمَّ لَنَقُولَنَّ These are also ta'keeds, emphasis. Whenever you see this in Arabic, the la and the noon at the end with the tanween is a like ta'keed, emphasis. لِوَلِيهِ مَا شَهِدْنَا مَهْلِكَ أَهْلِ وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ Always keep, the font bigger for the Quranic text in your print. They said, let us swear a mutual oath by Allah that we shall attack him. This is talking about Prophet Saleh's camel. So people are coming, they want to make an oath. We shall attack him and his family at nighttime. Then we will say to his children, we did not witness the destruction of his family, and we are really truthful. So people are saying we'll kill Saleh and his family, but we will say, ma shahidna. We're not present there. We were not present there. Meaning, not only were we not present, meaning we also do not know. We're unaware of this. It's possible for you to not be present, but you can still know things. They know we're not present, meaning we did not see anything. Surah Al-Hajj, ayah 28. لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ So that they may see the benefits for themselves and remember the name of Allah and so on. It's talking about providing the livestock for animals during Hajj time. So Allah says so they can see the benefits. So they can, when they are there in the presence of the animals, they can see it. So shahida, it seems to mean something that you are present. The Arabs used to believe, the Jahiliyyah Arab used to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala na'udhu billah has daughters. So the angels are the daughters of Allah. So Allah says in Surah Safat, Surah 37, ayah 150, أَمْ خَلَقْنَا الْمَلَائِكَةَ إِنَاثًا وَهُمْ شَاهِدُونَ Did we create the angels as females while they were present? How did they know? Did they see this? How do they know this? So he's negating their knowledge. They were not present, so how can they know this? Surah Nur, ayah 2. This is about fornication and the whipping and so on. Over here it says, when they are being whipped, last sentence, وَلْيَشْهَدْ عَذَابَهُمَا طَائِفَةٌ مِّنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ Group of believers must be present there to witness this. Because they must see and they must know that this has happened. This punishment has taken place. You cannot do it in some secret place. It has to be witnessed. People have to be seeing it. Surah Ma'idah, Surah 5, ayah 117. Prophet Isa will be asked on the Day of Judgment, why did your people start believing you're Son of God? Isa says, مَا قُلْتُ لَهُمْ I did not say anything to them, إِلَّا مَا أَمَرْتَنِي بِهِ I told them everything that you commanded me to say, that you shall worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. وَكُنْتُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا Okay, مَا دُمْتُ فِيهِمْ I was a shaheed over them as long as I was alive with them. When I was with them, when I was present with them, this is what I was saying and this is what they were believing in as well. But, when I have died, I've passed away. Well, I'm sorry. When I was resurrected, they started to say all of these things. So look, مَا دُمْتُ فِيهَا means that they were, Isa is with them. Okay, so this shaheed and a shahid seems to indicate that someone is present. And presence now means knowledge and awareness of something. This is what it means. So now when it says Allah is shaheed over all things, meaning what? Allah firstly is present everywhere and He knows everything. Okay. Later on, what you see is that the word shahid and shaheed, the meaning also extends a little bit. So it moves from just being present and being aware of something to now also transferring this knowledge. So look, there's an extension now happening. A shahid, which is a witness, witness testimony, is not just somebody who was present and saw something. He is now also, or she is also now transferring this knowledge. So this is also in the Quran. For example, Surah Yusuf, ayah 81. This is after the brothers of Yusuf go to Misr, and the sack of whatever it was, the rice or the wheat, and Prophet Yusuf secretly puts the golden thing in it, the cup or whatever. The story, the whole theft story. So the brothers say, return to your father and say, "O our father, your son committed theft. We only tell you what we know. We only tell you what we know. Ya abana inna ibnaka saraka wa ma shahidna illa bima alimna." We can only tell you that which we know. So shahidna is being used not to say we saw. They're saying no, we are telling you. So look, the meaning is different over here. Okay. Surah Fussilat, ayah 21. So day of judgment, our skins will testify against us. Our skin will testify against us. And people will say to their own skins, وَقَالُوا لِجُلُودِهِمْ لِمَا شَهِدْتُمْ عَلَيْنَا. Why are you speaking against us? Why are you transferring knowledge to the angels or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against us? Okay, so shahidna. Surah Fussilat. Okay, anyways, Surah Fussilat, ayah 22 as well. Okay, so ayah 22. Surah Furqan, Surah 25, ayah 72. Same thing. And so on. It is this meaning that is used in the Shahadah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Meaning, otherwise you're not. What do you mean ashhadu anna? You're not not present physically with Allah, nor are you present physically with the Prophet. Shahid, ashhadu, yani I am expressing, I am testifying, meaning I am proclaiming and transferring this knowledge. I'm letting everybody know that I believe in this, and I'm letting you know. Nothing to do with eyewitnessing or anything like that. That's what you're saying. Ashhadu an la. Okay? And this is also in Surah Ali Imran, ayah 18. Shahidallahu. Allah does shahadah. What do you mean Allah does shahadah? Allah is saying, I believe that I testify. No, Allah is transferring this knowledge. Allah is letting you all know, Annahu la ilaha illahu. That's what it means. Shahidallah. So look, there is this now meaning that is beyond just being present and being aware. No, it is also a transfer of knowledge. So extension is happening. Now you understand that shahida means present, and that indicates knowledge. You will now understand the dichotomy in the Quran of Ghayb. Okay, Ghayb. Ghayb now is the opposite. وَهُوَ الَّذِي Surah An'am, ayah 73. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بِالْحَقِّ وَيَوْمَ يَقُولُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ قَوْلُهُ الْحَقِّ وَلَهُ الْمُلْكُ يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. Allah has knowledge, or He's alim over the ghayb and the shahada. Allah doesn't have any ghayb. What do you mean there's a ghayb and Allah has knowledge of? Allah doesn't have any ghayb. There's nothing unknown from Him. This ghayb is relative to us. We have a realm of shahada. We have a realm where we are present and we know things, and there are aspects and realms and areas that are ghayb from us. So he's saying alimul ghayb, meaning there are aspects of the cosmos altogether that we are not aware of. So relative to us, it's ghayb. Not that to Him is ghayb. Alimul ghayb and shahada. Allah, for Him, Allah is like, yeah, this is ghayb and this is shahada. I can see this one, I can see this one too. No, there's nothing like that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's all present for Him. Okay? So this is what we're so far getting from the word shahida, shaheed, shahid. This is what we're getting. Has the Quran used the word shaheed in the meaning of a martyr? In the meaning of somebody who is killed in the way of Allah? The short answer is no. The short answer is no. The Quran. I'm not talking about hadith and the Prophet's narrations and the Imams. I'm talking about that. Talking about in the Quran. The word shaheed is not used in the meaning of one who is killed in the way of Allah, who we call shuhada. So how are they referred to in the Quran? They are referred to in the Quran in these three ways. I mean, one way in these three ayat. Surah Baqarah. وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. يُقْتَلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. One who is killed in the way of Allah. Don't call them dead, rather they are alive. Everyone knows this ayah, right? Surah Baqarah 286. Surah Al Imran 157. وَلَئِن قُتِلْتُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Should you be killed in the way of Allah, Allah will forgive you and so on. Surah Al Imran, ayah 169. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Do not think those who are killed in the way of Allah as amwat. So in the Quran, the ones who are killed in the way of Allah are called قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who are يُقْتَلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. So they're not calling them, it does not say, don't say to the shaheed or the Shahadah that they are dead. It says, don't say to the one who is killed in the way of Allah. So then what about shaheed? What about the word shaheed? Where did this come from at the end of the day? Okay, this is what we're going to sort of quickly, I'm going to touch upon this here. The discussions of shaheed in the meaning of one who is killed in the way of Allah is discussed in fiqh in the discussions of ghusl mayyat. You would think it is discussed in kitab of jihad. No, it's not discussed in kitab of jihad. It is discussed in the discussions of ghusl mayyat. Okay, because in the discussion of ghusl mayyat, they say, okay, how do you give ghusl to a mayyat? Who has to give it? How do you have to give it? And then over there they say, well, there are some exceptions who you don't have to give ghusl. For example, I don't even remember, to be honest, the fiqh rulings, but I think the younger children, like a fetus, for example, there's no ghusl for them, if I recall. Don't quote me on this right now. One of the exceptions is one who is killed in the battlefield. Okay, even there are specific rules. Not just anyone killed in the battlefield. If I go in the battlefield, I get injured, I get taken to the hospital and I die, that's not the shaheed in fiqh. Because the shaheed in fiqh has rulings. They are excluded from the ghusl and kafan. Okay, you have to bury them like that. It is only an individual who is killed on the battlefield, and basically they're killed in the battlefield essentially. In a war, not even just any random war. Not in any random war. In a war in which Islam is under attack. This is the fiqhi definition. Every marja accepts this. Okay? So what I want you to know is that there's a word called, shahid or shaheed. Okay? This is an Arabic word that seems to indicate presence and knowledge. This is what it means in Arabic, presence and knowledge. Now, there are people who are killed, or let's just call them martyr, right? Martyrs. At some point, maybe after the era of Medina, maybe after the era, or like later in Medina, whenever, we don't know. In the Muslim society, the word, like these people who were killed in the battles, also became to be called shaheed. Okay? It was just a term that the Muslim community decided to call them. Very similar to the word kafir. Kafir in the Quran is used for literally the mushrikeen, or those who intentionally disobey. But in fiqh, when you talk about, can you eat from a kafir, non-kafir, this, that, even the Ahlul Kitab are called kafir, even the ones who may not intentionally deny Islam, they may not even know, legally they are put under category of kafir. This is a legal definition, not a Quranic definition. So shaheed so far in the Quran is not used in martyr, but it is possible that the martyrs are a group of people that are also within this category. This is the key point. Otherwise, over here you have prophets as well. You have the whole ummah. Allah says in the Quran, the whole ummah is a shaheed over the people. So you have all of these people, martyrs and scholars and so on. You have different groups who the Quran refers to all of them as shaheed and shahadah and shahid. But at some point, this category specifically also became to be called shaheed on its own. This is a fiqhi shaheed. As a matter of fact, we go even beyond the fiqhi shaheed. For example, yesterday, Shahadah of Peshawar. Inshallah, we'll do Fatiha for them. And then Shahadah of Peshawar. Why are we calling them Shahadah? They all have to be given ghusl and kafan. But because we have many narrations that say that, okay, those who are killed in a masjid, those who are killed in the way of gaining knowledge, a woman who dies during childbirth, they're all shaheed. Meaning what? They are in the status of these martyrs. They are getting the reward of these martyrs. Not that they are going to be applicable, not that the fiqhi ruling is applicable on them. The thawab is one similar, like you go for ziyarat of Imam Hussein, you get the reward of Hajj. Many narrations that say that, or the reward of Umrah. Does that mean now Hajj is not wajib? No, Hajj, the fiqh is still wajib. The reward you're gonna get. So you have all of these shuhada here, which are getting the reward of these shuhada, which are the fiqhi shuhada. Okay, this is very, very important to understand this. They're not the same. Fiqh-wise, you gotta treat them like anyone who has been killed or assassinated or murdered or whatever the situation is. You know, you give the ghusl, kafan, namaz, janaza, everything has to happen. Okay, so this is the case over here. Why were these martyrs called shaheed by the Muslim community? There are like 4 or 5 different opinions, and we actually don't know. We have speculations. We can only speculate. Unfortunately, we don't have historical sources here to tell us why did the Muslim community and at what point did they decide to call the martyrs, the yuqtal fi sabilillah, as shaheed. There are some opinions. These are I'm mentioning both Sunni and Shia opinions here. Some say it's because the shaheed in the battle they witnessed heaven. They saw heaven, so they witnessed heaven. Or some say, this one, you know, is from the Ahlul Sunnah, this one, they witnessed the battle. These are just speculative theories, they're just assuming. Or because they will be shown heaven. That's maybe why the Muslims tried to call them shaheed. Or they will witness the effects and the consequences of their deeds. So they will witness them. Or, as most of you will probably know this is the most famous one, that they are alive and they can see us, as the ayah in the Quran says. This is the most famous one that we have heard. But these are, you know, different theories and so on. So look, the Quran does not use the word shaheed or shuhada in the meaning of the one who is killed. But when it does use the word shaheed or shuhada, yes, those who are killed in the way of Allah can also be included in that category. Those who are witnesses. The best ayah, that is the most strongest ayah that is used by those individuals, those scholars who say that no, the Quran did use shaheed in the meaning of those who are martyred, is Surah Al Imran, ayah 140. Okay, by the way, this whole thing I'm doing, I'm trying to show you the back and forth of how scholarship works. Back, forth, back, forth. I'm showing you the proponents who say no, Allah did use the word shaheed in the Quran, meaning those who were martyred. Surah Al Imran, ayah 140, after the battle of Uhud. After the battle of Uhud. If you suffered injuries at Uhud, well, they also suffered similarly in Badr. So obviously after the battle of Uhud, the Muslims were very, you know, depressed and sad, and they were upset. They were saying, how can God do this to us? Allah says, you suffered in Uhud, well, they also suffered in Badr. And this is actually one of my favorite ayat, by the way, especially this line. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَيَتَّخِذَ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ. We alternate these days of victory and defeat among the people, so that Allah may reveal the true believers and choose shuhada from among you. The proponents said, this shuhada is talking about martyrs. We alternate the victory and the days of loss so that we can take the shuhada from you. So it's a pretty strong ayah, right? After the battle of Uhud. Yeah? No, man. Look, you have to prove in tafsir, brothers and sisters, in tafsir, if we have proven a default where shaheed and shuhada and shahida means witnessing, this is the default that we have shown, and that there's an extension of transferring knowledge, you now have to prove that in the Quran, the word shaheed was also later constructed to mean a martyr. We don't have any evidence for this. You cannot use the Quran over here as like one exceptional verse to prove that. It is not possible. Unless you can prove that at the time of Uhud, this was a term that became popular in Arabia. And we don't have any evidence for that. So you have to default back to say, no, Shuhada over here means what we said, that they will be witnesses, that they will testify against the disbelievers, that Allah will alternate the days of victory and loss, and from this we will choose the believers. We will figure out, this will be a test for people. Because remember, in Uhud, people began to doubt the whole religion. Remember? So Allah will choose the believers, and from these believers, there will be Shuhada, there will be witnesses. There will be people who will testify. That makes sense. So this is something that is used. There are other ayat also used. Those are much weaker. I'm not going to quote those over here. Okay? Okay. So far, we have shown that shaheed, shuhada in the Quran does not necessarily mean martyr, but those who are martyred can be part of the shuhada. As a matter of fact, they are. They are. They will be witnesses on the Day of Judgment. But the word is not used to mean that. The word is used to mean many different categories. Over here, I'm going to bring a contemporary discussion once again, like I always like to do. I mentioned in the first tafsir, second tafsir, even the last tafsir, I keep mentioning the idea of science in the 19th and 20th century and how that impacted the Muslim world. As a matter of fact, in the thematic seerah that I did, the 5th session that I did was, the brothers and sisters that were here, I went really in detail. I showed you what was happening, what type of reactions the Muslim world was giving, and so on. I said, even Imam Khomeini was part of that movement. So there was many reactions coming. One of the reactions that came was the Quranist movement. Maybe many of you or some of you have heard of this. The Quran only movement. Meaning what? They were saying that the hadith, so these are Muslims. It started from India. Later it got popularized in Arabia, in Egypt. Okay, Arabia, the Arab world. The Quranist movement, and Syria and so on. The Quranist movement was saying that, the science is very, so good. And our hadith corpus has so many narrations that are completely against science. This shows that we cannot trust the entire hadith corpus. Nothing from it. It's completely fabricated, false. We don't care. We cannot trust it. The only thing that we can trust is Quran. And even in the Quran, when they would see, and that's why they would start doing these scientific interpretations, okay? One of the Quranists that came was a Syrian philosopher by the name of Muhammad Shahrour. Muhammad Shahrour, Syrian philosopher. Okay, he's a Quranist. In the, after the 6-day Arab-Israeli War, 1967, it was Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and I think Iraq maybe as well, I'm not remember. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, they had a war with Israel, okay? They got destroyed in 6 days. Google, there's some very interesting videos analyzing how they lost, okay? You have 3 giant countries fighting this little, Lilliputian, at that time, they got destroyed. Not because Israel was strong, because of the poor strategies that were made, okay, to fight that. It's very interesting over there. Anyways, when this defeat happened, this Muhammad Shahrour is holding his head. It's what on earth is going on? How do we lose to this little, ant? So this namal, right? He says, now I'm fully convinced that the whole crisis of the Muslim world is the hadith. This hadith, and they're so backwards, they're not progressing technologically, and all this crisis started for him. So he became a very hardcore Quranist, and he wrote a book called The Book and the Quran, a Contemporary Reading. He wrote this after the war. Okay? Why am I quoting this? Over there, he gives another explanation of the word shahida, shaheed, shuhada. And he tries to make it scientifically correct. I said, what? What's going on? Look at how interesting the theory is. We're going to critique it as well. He says, look, there are actually 2 words. There are actually 2 words in the Quran, and you need to separate these 2. Okay, you need to separate. One is shaheed. So your pen, Jana. He says one is shaheed, and it's plurals, right? Its plural is shuhada. Please write it yourself. Shuhada and ashhad. And the other is shahid. Okay, and shahidun, shahideen, shahidain, these are the plurals for it, okay? He says shaheed means someone who is present, who is alive, and has sensory knowledge towards something. And they can see and hear it. Okay? Sensory knowledge towards something, and they can see and hear, and then they can give a testimony about it. Okay? For example, Surah Baqarah 282, Ayah 282. This is about a contract, write your contracts down when you're in a business transaction, so on. And when they're, before you do that, make sure وَاسْتَشْهِدُوا شَهِيدَيْن مِنْ رِجَالِكُمْ. Okay? And call 2 male witnesses to see this, meaning they are going to come and see it. Sensory knowledge. Okay? Surah Ma'idah, Prophet Isa says, so this is when Prophet Isa is alive. This is the same ayah I quoted before. He says, Allah says, why did they believe you're son of God? He says, وَكُنْتُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا مَا دُمْتُ فِيهِمْ. I was shaheed, as long as I was shaheed and within them, they did not believe in this. Sensory knowledge. Okay? Those of you who can see where this is going, it's very interesting, right? There's a sensory knowledge that he's talking about. Okay. So anyways, there's other ayati quotes. So shaheed, sensory. Okay, what's shahid then? What's a shahid? Shahid, he says, look at Surah Yusuf. The case where Zulaykha is seducing Prophet Yusuf. قَالَ هِيَ رَاوَدَتْنِي عَنْ نَفْسِي وَالشَّهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. That Yusuf ﷺ says, she seduced me. She tried to seduce me, and a witness from her own family testified. The story, they say it was a baby and so on. I don't want to talk about that. What does this witness say? Quran does not mention it's a baby. What does this witness say? It says, if his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and it's from the back and so on. So the witness is giving a principle. But if you notice, the witness is not saying who did what. It shows that the shahid didn't actually see anything. Shahid didn't see anything. If the shahid saw it, the shahid should come and testify. Yusuf is right, Zulaykha is wrong. Shahid is saying, in this, if this, then this. If this, then this. Shahid is giving a principle. This means he has some knowledge, but it's not sensory knowledge. It's reflective, theoretical knowledge. Okay? Surah Anbiya. So Prophet Ibrahim is confronting the people, his people. And he says, Ibrahim says to them, قَالَ بَلْ رَبُّكُمْ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ الَّذِي فَطَرَهُنَّ وَأَنَا عَلَى ذَلِكُمْ مِنَ الشَّاهِدِينَ. I am witness to the fact that Allah is the one who created the heavens and earth. This Shahrour uses this ayah to say this is theoretical knowledge. He was just reflecting over it. You cannot see Allah physically. You cannot have sensory knowledge of Allah. So he's not, Prophet Ibrahim is not calling himself shaheed. He's saying, I'm from the shahideen. Okay? What is his conclusion from this? What is he trying to get at? He's trying to say that the scientists and the geologists and astronomers, their knowledge is sensory. They are shaheed. And shaheed, a knowledge of a shaheed is superior than the knowledge of the shahid, which is who? The philosophers, the mystics, the theologians. These guys are just lower. Remember I talked about epistemology and I said, how do you evaluate the degree of knowledge? We said wahy at the top, then aql, then induction, then this and this and this. He's trying to say the Quran is saying the shaheed's knowledge is greater. But why is it greater? It's because it's sensory knowledge. Scientific knowledge is sensory knowledge. The shahid is reflective knowledge. It's not something that they have actually seen. This is what he ends up concluding. There's other discussions here where you can ask questions to him. How does he say that the Prophet will be Shahadah ala nas and so on? I don't want to, if anybody wants more detail, they can go on him. Question is, what made Shahrour think this way? Isn't it interesting? Would you not say it's interesting? He's looking at the things. The way he got into this is actually not from a Muslim scholar. This methodology is actually from a Japanese scholar who lived in 1914 and he died in 1993. His name is Toshihiko Izutsu. Toshihiko Izutsu is one of the a very legit philosopher of language. Okay, he knew 30 languages, and he has written one of the best works on the Quran, a very good work, called God and Man in the Quran. God and Man in the Quran. This book had huge impact in Iran and in Egypt, and also Arabian Arab scholarship, even in Iran, because this person, he worked with Hossein Nasr before the revolution. Those of you who know Hossein Nasr, before the revolution, Toshihiko Izutsu, he used to work with Nasr, like work as in like they would have their discussions and so on. What did Izutsu say? Izutsu said that, look, you gotta treat the Quran very, very differently. You cannot treat the Quran, you cannot look at the words of the Quran by looking at the Arabic dictionaries. So if I want to go to Shahadah right now, what will I do? I will open up a dictionary, right? Ibn Faris, I don't know, Ibn Khalid, what's his name? Al-Farahidi. There's all these dictionaries that exist that are written in 2nd century, 3rd century. He says, no, the Quran is a dictionary of its own. And in order to figure out the words of the Quran and the worldview of the Quran, you have to look at each individual word in the Quran and see the atmosphere that it is being used in. And from there, you can get a meaning of it. So for example, Allah for the Arabs, so outside of the Quran, you come in the Arab community, the shirk community, Allah for them is just another idol. They had an idol for Allah as well. So you had Lat and Manat and Uzza and this, and then Allah is also there. This is what they saw Allah as. The Quran comes and now Allah is in an atmosphere where He's Sami and Basir and Alim and Shaheed. So you see the word Allah in the Quranic worldview is like a web with all of these terms all over the Quran. So when you say Allah, and we as Muslims, when we say Allah, we don't think of an idol in Arabia. Never. The atmosphere in the Quran is different. So the Quran is creating a new definition actually. This is what he's saying. Quran creates new definitions of these words. The Arabs would use the word Allah. Likewise, the Arabs use the word kufr. Kafir, meaning somebody who conceals. The farmer was a kafir. Farmer was called kafir because he would hide whatever, the seeds or whatever, In Arabia, when they would say kafir, the word that is coming is, farming and irrigation, and this is what kufr means. Quran comes and completely changes the definition. And it contrasts it with iman. And kufr is what? Kufr is shirk and jahal and foolishness and inad and udu. And this is what kufr means. Like the word kufr, even when you say it today, you get this very negative connotation. The Quran constructed this. Isyan, tughyan, all those that we spoke about. Okay, another example. Kitab. Kitab in Arabia, before the Quran comes, what's kitab? It's something that you inscribe or a book. The Quran uses the word kitab for itself, but look at the descriptions. Nuzul, Inzal, Mubin, Nur, Tibyan. So the Quran it's saying Kitabullah, but Kitabullah, not just a book. All of these descriptions are around it, okay? Or the kitab, which is used for your deeds. Over there you see words like ihsa. Ihsa means to account. Or saghir and kabir and yamin and yasar. And so you see, like, this is a very interesting web of concepts that is linked to that one word. Only a Japanese scholar would come with something like this, right? Shahrour is influenced by this methodology. I just want to mention, don't think Muslim scholars didn't know this, okay? I'm not saying he came over there and nobody knew. No. Muslim scholars, we had this. It was called the discussion of al-Haqiqatu Shar'iyya. We have this discussion, but it was not used as an entire methodology in the Quran. It was not used, but it is there. Like we study it in the Hawza. It is there, but this Izutsu made an entire methodology out of it, and it impacted these scholars. And as I said, in Iran, there's a lot of research. I mean, it's done with, right? So essentially what he's saying is that, so that's what he comes and he does here. He says, Shaheed and Shahid, look at the web, and this is what I'm coming at. I want to end with some criticisms. How can we critique this? How can we critique this? As I said, I apologize. I know for some it may be a little advanced today, but I want to enjoy the tafsir as well sometime. I hope it's beneficial, inshallah, right? So, in philosophy of religion, if you want to critique an idea or a theory, it is not like the Sunni Shia debates that happen online. Okay? There are four sort of elements that you need to subjugate that theory to. Okay, some say 3, some say 4, whatever, I'll say 4. What are these 4? You gotta write these down. because you will see a lot of scholars using this without you knowing that they're using this. Number one, the idea or the theory has to be coherent. Meaning what? That the quality of what you're presenting has a logical order. Okay, firstly, it makes some sense. Coherent. Number two, it is consistent. So yes, you've presented it. Now let's come and apply it on, on the Quran, whatever you're using it. Let's apply it. Is this theory consistent with what it's presenting? Number three, explanatory power. Does the theory or the hypothesis, can it explain the subject, effectively or no? Does it have the ability to explain itself or no? And the last one is implications. Implications means, okay, now that, it's okay, fine, it's coherent, it's consistent, it can explain itself. Once you apply it and take the conclusions out, are there any implications that would go against another view of yours? Okay? For example, in fiqh, there's many examples in fiqh you can think of. For example, every fiqhi ruling is conditioned to the principle of la darar. La darar means anything that is harmful in Islam, that law becomes dissolved. Okay, you don't have to, for example, fasting. If fasting has any harm for a person, you're not allowed to fast. Okay, darar. If there was no laws to this, someone can say, yeah, darar, any darar. If I say, when I fast, I feel hunger, I'm gonna call that darar. Okay. So look, the implications of that would be nobody would fast. So we know from another point that look, fasting is wajib. So this implication would be something that would make us question the theory. So you see over here, there are some ways to subjugate his theory to this test. And that's all we need to do. We don't need to refute him or anything. We just say, look, your methodology is inconsistent. It's not coherent, for example. Over here, there are some places in the Quran where the word shaheed is used in the meaning of shahid. Or shahid, is used in the meaning of shaheed. Which is one of them is right here, Surah al-Muzzammil. So look, we're coming back now. Surah al-Muzzammil says what? We will send you, where did it go? Inna arsalna ilaykum rasulan shahidan. We have sent you as a messenger and a shahid. Shahid, Shahrour is saying it's theoretical, reflective. No, I'm sending you to your qawm. It should say shaheed. It should say shaheed. Because he's saying shaheed is sensory. Well, this is not saying shaheed. Okay, that's one of the tests. Another one is Surah Nisa, ayah 41. Just write them down. I don't want to go through them. Okay. Over here, Surah. These are all. I'm just going to mention the ayah. Surah 5, ayah 113. These are all inconsistencies that he has. Surah 28, verse 44. Okay. Surah 21, Surah Anbiya, ayah 78. Okay. As for the ayah of Surah Yusuf, you know what? If anybody wants to know the ayah Surah Yusuf one, where the child is thing, I can talk about it afterwards. But let me just wrap it up. My point is that these ayah that I've quoted are showing inconsistencies in his theory, where the word shahid is used as shaheed and shaheed is used in the meaning of shahid. Meaning, Shahrour is saying shaheed means sensory, but the Quran uses shaheed for something reflective, theoretical. Or it says shahid, and the Quran is using in the meaning of shaheed, meaning sensory. So these are the inconsistencies that I've quoted for you. Okay. So Shahrour's theory is being shown to be inconsistent. I want to wrap this up with the view of Shahid Baqir al-Sadr. I want to wrap it up with that, inshallah. And now, with this ayah will make sense, that we have sent you as a Rasul shahidan. Okay, shahidan alaykum, as a shahid. What does Shahid Sadr say? Shahid Sadr brings two concepts of khilafa and shaheed, and a shahid basically. Okay. He says, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said to the angels, when angels said, why are you sending these humans to the earth? They're going to cause destruction. Allah says in the Quran, Inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa. I'm going to appoint on earth a khalifa, a vicegerent, or a deputy. Somebody who is going to represent me. Shahid Sadr says this is actually the role of humans. We have to represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. Okay? But even though Allah sent us as His Khalifa, The Quran is full of negative qualities about insan. Insan has kunud, it has jahl, is da'if, is ajil, like is hasty, tughyan, aasi, this, all of these things. Shaykh Sadr says once humans are on earth, they are supposed to be Khalifatullah, but they start losing that deputyship. They start becoming full of these vices, immoralities, sins. So they are now losing their right to be a Khalifatullah. Okay? So how can we become Khalifat? So how do we go back to that? The way we go back to that is with the assistance of the Shahid and the Shuhada. Huh? What does that mean? Shaykh Sadr says the word Shahid or a Shaheed is someone who has three qualities. In the Quran, it has three qualities. Quality number one is adala and istiqama. Somebody who is just in their basically affairs. Okay, what is the ayah that he uses? Surah 2, Surah Baqarah, ayah 143. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. We have made you into a middle just community. Okay? The middleness of this community, the justice of this community is the reason why they are shuhada. So this is one quality Shaykh Sadr says. The shaheed is somebody who's going to be just. Number two is that they're going to have knowledge, ilm. For this, he uses a longer verse from Surah 5, Surah Maida, ayah 44. I'm not going to quote the whole verse. But over there, essentially, it's saying that the shaheed and the shuhada are those who are not just, they also have ilm. They have knowledge. And the third thing, once again, I'm not going to quote the verse, Surah 5, ayah 117. The shuhada and the shahid and the shaheed are those who have an understanding of reality. They're not delusional. Okay, so three qualities that a shaheed has or a shahid has. It's adala, justice, ilm, knowledge, and basically aql. They have understanding. Okay, how does the person reach the stage of shaheed and a shahid? That same ayah that I quoted for Surah the Badr and Uhud. Even Shaykh Sadr does not use that ayah to mean martyr. Same one, تِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Okay, that you lost at Uhud, well, they lost at Badr. And these are days we flip around, to test the believers and see who is going to be the shuhada. So I can see the shuhada. Who are the shuhada? Those who have adala, those who have knowledge, and those who have ilm. Therefore, the prophets and the imams are shaheed and shuhada. Why? Because they have these three qualities at the topmost, but does not mean the Muslim ummah cannot be from that quality. The Muslim ummah, Allah says, you can also be a shaheed, you can also be a shahid. And then other people, the yuqtil fi sabilillah, the martyrs are also shaheed or shuhada, because they can also have these three qualities. So look, this is what Shaykh Sadr says about the meaning of shaheed and shahid in the Quran. On an individual level, then he has a further discussion on the community, because Allah says the ummah is going to be shaheed. What do you mean ummah? Over there he mentions two qualities. So look, for the individual I mentioned the three, for the ummah there's two. Number one quality is that they are a community that does shura. Shura means it's a community that is built on consulting and advising one another. This is actually a quality that Shaykh Sadr is saying is going to make you an ummah which is from the shuhada. And the second quality is that you are engaging in amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar. So as I said, I'm trying to simplify these discussions here because I've gone over time. But this is the definition that Shaykh Sadr says, and based on this, you can now understand this ayah, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Inna arsalna ilaykum rasulan shahidan alaykum. We are sending you a rasul to you who's not just a messenger, but he's also a shahid. He's a witness who has adala, who has ilm, and who has aql. These three qualities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in this. Inshallah, apologies once again for anybody who felt maybe this was a bit too much. But next session we will talk about why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is setting a precedence for the Prophet by mentioning Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Why Prophet Musa? Why not anyone else? And then from there we will begin to talk about some of the spiritual lessons that are mentioned in this surah, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. we have a request for Fatiha for all the Shahadah of Peshawar's attack yesterday. Rabab Bano, Sayyid Muhammad Hasnain, Shahanshah Hussein, and obviously all the marhumin of all of the participants present today. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.